So I've been building a software agency over the past 3 years, and I tried many businesses before that. I have tried several different business models. I got serious about 3 different businesses, and this was the third one, and the only one that has made me any real money. And I'll speak a little bit about what those businesses were, and then why I settled on the agency, and what the thesis was behind creating this, and why I think it was a really, really good decision. I'm just sharing my path and how I ended up where I am now. If you're somebody who wants to start a business, maybe this is useful for you to get ahead and not make the same mistakes that I did. But it's fundamentally just me sharing kind of why I am where I am in terms of which business model I do. The first business I ever built was actually a small delivery business that was local to my school, actually, and I made a website for it. People could order online, and that was basically it. It was Uber Eats, effectively. At the time, there was an Uber Eats in my school, and so, it worked. It had a business model. Second business was, it was meant to be a tech product, so it was kind of a SaaS. We were selling B2B2C, so basically we were selling through schools. It was an ed tech product. I worked on that for a year. It didn't really go anywhere, and I'll speak more on it in a second. And then the third business, obviously, this software development company. So we do software engineering for other companies. We do like kind of software consultancy, and we're getting a little bit more specific about what we do now. But in general, we build tech products for other businesses and other clients. So that's how I am where I am now. So there's a couple different business models that you can pursue, right? You can either build some kind of physical product, or you can do some kind of physical service. You can do some kind of digital product or some kind of digital service. So for each one of these business models that I tried, I'm just going to speak a little bit on my experience and, what went well, what didn't, and why I changed or why I stuck to it. Starting off with the first business, that delivery business. It was a physical service, right, where I was getting a physical product and distributing it. Now, it was not fundamentally scalable because for a long time I was doing the delivery myself. I was very young at the time, but I was doing delivery, and then I tried to scale up and get other people. The issue is you need a lot more infrastructure. So you need to be able to organize people, and you need a lot of people to kind of fulfill. And if you can make enough cash from just delivering yourself, and then you can easily roll that into salaries and keep going from there. But it's logistically quite challenging. So there's a lot of real on-hand logistics, and it's very location constrained. If you're doing something physical, you have to be in person most of the time, especially if it's some kind of physical service. I am somebody who moved around a lot as a kid. I was in Malaysia at the time, and later I had to move to Singapore and stuff. And so because of that, it was not a business model that worked with that kind of life very well as well. And so that was one of the big downsides. It's a hard time to scale that because operations can get very complicated, but I think actually you can go a very, very long way with those kinds of physical service businesses. I can't speak on physical products, but I think physical products are marginally harder when they're your own products because you have to manage inventory. So you have to order a bunch of stock from a factory, spend, potentially tens of thousands of dollars, order from a factory, sell out, and then order more. And if you don't sell out, you basically just lost a bunch of money. You can obviously do drop shipping, but drop shipping usually you don't have the same, degree of control over quality and branding and things like that. And so it's generally not, I think, as sustainable. What I've heard from my friends who did drop shipping is that they're constantly chasing for the next hit. They're constantly chasing for the next product, the next hot thing. And so you never really build something that's substantial and has longevity in it. There's plenty of people who have succeeded in those business models. It's not to say you can't do them. It's just that they have certain limitations. I think the physical service one, the location, the geographical one is a big limitation. And on the product side, there's a lot of complications around, you have to get the product right. You have to often check with several manufacturers. You need a little bit more cash up front because you have to be able to front the ordering costs. You have to test manufacturers, things like that. When I started this business, I really didn't have that kind of money. Maybe I had like $1,000 or something. And so it wasn't really enough to start. I actually also tried to launch a drop shipping business. I never really got into it, but I stopped because I realized that I was going to have to spend, a couple $100s on ads, and you have to keep testing ads until something works. You lose money in that starting phase, and I didn't have money to lose basically. And so I couldn't pay for those. I couldn't afford those. So I gave up on the drop shipping thing. Those are some pros and cons there on those two, the physical space, the physical products, physical services. Moving on from that, then we have the digital product that I tried to build, which was an ed tech platform that was basically connecting students to mentors and universities that they might attend. It failed because fundamentally we didn't have product market fit, which means we didn't actually build something that people wanted. It wasn't solving a real problem. It was a tool that was effectively not solving anybody's pain point. I worked on that for a year. I had some co-founders and I was kind of leading engineering on that, but they were leading the idea. And I learned a lot of things. And the one useful thing that came out of that is we held a podcast where we interviewed, a bunch of people, very interesting people, some big CEOs as well. One of the things I realized through that is that finding product market fit is really, really hard. So it's not that simple to just build something digital and get people to use it, and then people love it and it goes great and you make a bunch of money. Like it's actually surprisingly hard to build something that people actually use and want. People are very entrenched in their habits, in their ways. People have a lot of inertia. And so it's not that easy to just spin something up that people love. Like surprisingly, you can build a lot of things that maybe don't really solve a problem. And then the second thing is marketing. And I learned this just through observing my clients, many of which build SaaS products. If you do not have distribution and if you don't do a lot of marketing work, it's really, really hard for your digital product to make you any money, because digital products are not super discoverable. It's hard to build something that a load of people want, and then you have to work very, very hard on marketing without a lot of money, because digital products usually they bring you very little money up front, but they can continue to bring you money for a long time, right? That's the point of the SaaS model. But let's say you sell a subscription for, let's say, $10 a month, and you sell your first 100 customers. 100 people is a lot of people, by the way. Imagine a party with 100 people. It's a pretty big party. You have to get every single one of those to sign up and pay, and you're going to get $1,000 a month. And with $1,000 a month, you cannot reinvest in salaries and things like that. Like $1,000 a month is going to barely cover your own costs, probably. That makes it a business model that can be a little bit hard to get off the ground without external capital. That's why you have a lot of VCs that fund this whole space. Obviously, the upside is that basically if you build something which has recurring revenue and it is a digital product, the kind of enterprise multiplier on that is very big. You can sell the company for a lot of money, but getting it off the ground can be really challenging because of marketing. And most people don't realize that, like, you don't get that much money up front, and so you have to do all the marketing yourself and often all the engineering yourself as well, or maybe just your core team. And that can be challenging. It can be bootstrapped. Like, there are definitely people who have done it, but by far most of the digital product companies tend to be VC funded because it's very hard to front the cash for this business. But on the back end, that can obviously pay off. I would also add a little caveat there, which is to get investor money is a whole barrier of its own. For me, that wasn't really realistic just because I didn't have track record, and also I was based in Singapore. If you're based in the US, it's a lot easier to access, seed capital and pre-seed capital, but in other parts of the world, it's not the same. And also, even if you raise, taking on VC money has certain implications. It means that you now have investors to answer to, and you're not playing just with your own money. There are situations as well where if you take a lot of VC money and they think you're not doing a good enough job, they can kick you out of your own company. And I think that's also a prospect that a lot of people don't realize, but it exists, and it does happen. It's a business model that can work incredibly well, but it's not the only business model there is. And I think digital products are sometimes a little bit overrated by developers because I think nobody really talks about that backside of it. Then the last company that I've built obviously is this one, and it's basically a digital service agency. For me, it made the most sense because it was the easiest one to bootstrap. So no cash up front, you basically sell a service that you know how to do, and you get paid for it. And because it's a service, you get paid maybe in hours or whatever, but you get paid a lot more cash. Usually it's like high ticket than, for example, a digital product. And so you can quickly roll up enough cash to be able to hire employees and things like that. Now, the business model is not without its flaws. It can be challenging to scale. You need people, you need things like that. But any business is hard to scale. I started it because I knew that finding product market fit in digital products was really hard, but I still wanted to build a company eventually. And so I wanted to build this company first and basically help other people build their products and understand how they built it, how they did well. And then in also running my own company, I've learned some business lessons along the way. One of the things I learned along the way, like, you have to get really specific about the problem you solve. And so now we're narrowing down beyond just building tech products, getting more specific. And so, an agency can be great, but also it's very easy to fall into the trap of trying to do too many things. I know that I did that. And it was a mistake. It was definitely a big mistake. It was still the easiest business model to get off the ground. I'm a solo founder, and it gives me space to learn things on my own in some way. There are downsides to that. Maybe it take longer to learn some lessons, but at the same time, it's fully yours and you have full control over it. And so you can really build whatever you want with it. And I think that's quite interesting. Anyway, I think services are by far the easiest to bootstrap if you don't have access to funding. You can get it off the ground basically without any money down. And as you start doing that service, you make a little bit of revenue. And if you ever want to pivot into something else, if you want to build some kind of digital product or something, you now also have much more business experience. And if you go to investors and tell them, we've done many, many six figures in revenue as an agency, and now we're building a product, they know that you have some business acumen. So it also helps you track record if you ever want to build something else. But I think it's a pretty great business model, at least to start with. But it's not without its challenges too, especially in terms of cash flow and salary. So as you start to hire people, you're an agency and you're bootstrapped, you're completely cash flow dependent. And so you're constantly looking and making sure that your revenue is enough to pay all the salaries and things like that. So it comes with that part of the territory too. Anyway, those are literally just some of the major lessons from my experience across different business models. Hopefully you take something from that if you want to build a business. And yeah, I record every day. So comment if you have any questions, subscribe if you enjoyed, and that's going to be it for today.